the Golden State Warriors might just do the impossible. I think. Or at least it seems like they could. They've been playing in a way that actually makes people think they stand some sort of chance at winning something big. Playing like a team you don't want to see at the wrong time. A team like this.
The 6th seed Golden State Warriors. Codename Dub Nation. Threat level your worst nightmare.
Okay, maybe not to that extreme, but you get the picture. Ever since the Warriors basically fooled their own fan base by having that amazing stretch at the beginning of the season where they were sitting on top of the West, things have been somewhat of a roller coaster ride. They had their moments that made you seriously question what they were doing, and other moments where fans were just happy to see them not play horrible for a game and come out with a win. And it was obvious that a change needed to be made, and that change just so happened to be Mr. Jimmy Butler. I mean, pairing the chef with a butler is just poetic, right? But does he truly solve any of the problems that Golden State previously had? Yes, pretty much all of them. Prior to Jimmy's arrival, they obviously had Steph Curry as the main guy, but outside of that, there was no clear direction. Nobody was really a consistent scorer that could be relied on to carry the scoring load in specific games. However, inconsistency wasn't even the biggest thing. In the minutes that Steph was on the bench, the team essentially crumbled. They were trying to play like Steph Curry was still in the game, even though he wasn't, which meant nobody looking to score and nobody being aggressive. But this is where Jimmy changes everything. Logically, in the minute Steph is off the court, Jimmy would be on, as to keep one star on the floor at all times, which remains the Warriors' ultimate game changer. Because with Jimmy on the floor in the non-Steph minutes, everyone around him suddenly becomes more aggressive. And I think the most obvious beneficiary would be Brandon Podziemski. He's shooting more shots on a consistent basis than he ever has before, which has resulted in a boosting scoring output. And of course, guys like Moses Moody and Quinton Post have continued to contribute to the scoring effort. We all know what Jimmy Butler can do by himself already. We're talking about a guy that managed to take the Heat to the finals multiple times when you could honestly say they should not have gone that far. But influencing offensive aggression to the guys around him just makes Golden State that much better. Because 5 scoring threats is a lot harder to guard than just 1 or 2. And that's exactly how Jimmy Butler has created such a drastic change to the team without even being hyper-aggressive himself. Although, we all know he can flip that switch in an instant.
Butler sets up on 3. Butler steps in for the steal and slam. Butler, long shot, good!
Jimmy Butler has an unexplainable ability to transform into a superstar caliber player in the playoffs. There's always 2 Jimmy Butlers to deal with. Jimmy in the regular season and Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. And playoff Jimmy is a dangerous weapon. During those Heat finals runs, we saw what happens when you have a great player in the right situation. And now he's running alongside the greatest shooter of all time. He will be playing with the most space he's ever had in his career and probably the most IQ on the floor at the same time. Good players are good, but great players are good and smart. If you look at Steph, LeBron, Jokic, these guys are all great at what they do, but they're also incredibly smart. And when you put multiple high IQ guys together on the floor, everything just seems to flow. Which perfectly explains why Jimmy has made such a drastic impact so fast. The Warriors have found the best way to utilize him, and he's smart enough to play off Steph Curry. Take a look at this genius play. Draymond has the ball up top. On the wing, you have Jimmy Butler setting a back screen for Steph. As Steph is coming off the screen, the Warriors already know PJ is going to switch, and Max Christie will be stuck on top. But this is where having Steph Curry is so beneficial. PJ Washington in this situation is supposed to be the weak side help defender, but because he's so busy staying attached to Steph, there's nobody to stop Jimmy on the cut.
Count the save. Butler with the slam. Draymond Green with the find.
I'm sure there are tons of actions involving these two, but this action in specific plays to both of the duo's strengths. Curry's off-ball gravity creates an open lane for Jimmy to score. But why can't anyone just do this? Well, they could, but the thing about Jimmy Butler is his ability to draw fouls. Had this been someone else and the lane isn't quite as open, maybe this results in nothing but a missed shot. But with Jimmy coming off the action, it is most likely either a bucket or a foul. And we all know what he's done statistically for the Warriors as a team in terms of free throws. He's somehow managed to make a team's weakness their strength in just a couple of weeks. That's just crazy. All of these things have contributed to the Warriors getting back to a point where they are surprisingly good again. And if you remember, the last time the Golden State Warriors were looking surprisingly good was back in 2022, where they ended the season on top of the NBA world. And if you're wondering why I'm telling you this, it's because we might just be looking at a sleeper contender again. Now, I'm not saying they're going to have the same result as 2022, but there's no clear sign that this team doesn't have at least a slight chance to do it. And yes, they did lose to the Sixers, but losses like that happen with every team. Even as good as the Warriors were in 2022, they still had losses against very bad teams like the Hornets and the Spurs. But you could just tell that team was better than those losses. And it's a similar feeling with the Warriors now. Not only do they look like a completely new team, but they look like they want to win. A championship is obviously the end goal, and the odds are very slim, but they were slim for the Heat and the 2022 Warriors. But turns out, odds don't mean anything when you have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. And we have yet to see how well the Warriors will perform when they get Jonathan Kuminga back on the floor. A very capable 20-point-per-game scorer who, like Jimmy, draws a lot of fouls. And more importantly, offers more offensive firepower. Kuminga has what the Warriors could always use more of. Someone that wants to score and never loses his aggression, whether Jimmy is in the game or not. Scoring droughts are the bane of every team's existence, and the more players you have that can counter that helps a ton. And looking at a roster with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Jonathan Kuminga as the big scoring three, I don't expect a lack of offensive aggression. Right now, the Warriors are sitting at the 6th seed in the West and are 9-1 with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. With the Western Conference being somewhat tight right now, it is still possible for them to drop back to the play-in or possibly sneak up into the 5th seed. But if they keep playing well, a playoff spot seems reasonable. At the very least, I expect them to guarantee a play-in spot. But just because they may be low-seeded, you can't quite count them out, because like we've seen in the past, playoff Jimmy and playoff Steph are not to be messed with, and they may just do the impossible.